At this moment, the world has entered the Ice Age. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 576. The construction of a large number of submarine cities requires a large amount of oxygen, which is different from the ground point. There is almost no breathing oxygen in the ocean, so a lot of marine plants are needed to produce oxygen. Walking into the experimental greenhouse, I saw a lot of seaweed immersed in seawater, and the breeder was testing its cold resistance and oxygen production. Ying Ziyue said, "In the ocean, the most indispensable resource is seawater, so we have to find a way to convert seawater into usable resources." Nowadays, the technology of artificial sun has become more and more adept. In the experimental greenhouse, the artificial sun hangs high in the sky. The seagrass irradiated by the sun begins to photosynthesize and produce a large amount of oxygen. These seaweeds have been genetically modified for generations to maximize the oxygen production of photosynthesis. The oxygen required for respiration has also been reduced to a minimum. As long as the two experimental greenhouses alternate photosynthesis, then this submarine city can continuously produce oxygen. At this time, Ying Ziyue turned on the test instrument, and the oxygen content in the air had reached 30%. Oxygen diffuses in the submarine city, and it may be diluted, but the oxygen content in it is close to the ground level, which is terrible. Not only that, Ying Ziyue took Xihai to the outskirts of Atlantis, and he was immediately shocked by the scenery in front of him. Colorful corals occupy his vision, and each coral is tens of meters tall. This is no longer ordinary coral, but a colorful coral forest. These coral forests are on the bottom of the sea, without any light. They actually produce a lot of oxygen. This coral forest is also the latest research result of the Atlantis Institute of Marine Botany. By changing the plant genes of corals, these corals can finally produce oxygen at the bottom of the sea. Just like forests, it's just that the lifespan of corals is greatly reduced. In order to make up for the lifespan defects, the researchers have maximized their reproductive capacity. As the saying goes, wildfires are endless, and spring breeze blows again. The oxygen produced by coral forests can not only be used as oxygen supply for submarine cities, the excess oxygen rising to the sea surface can also increase the oxygen content in the atmosphere. Xihai couldn't help but look at Ying Ziyue. When he built this submarine city, he really took all aspects into consideration. Today's Atlantis is an unbreakable fortress. For a civilian submarine city, the problem of oxygen must be solved first, followed by the problems of light and food. In the experimental greenhouse, land plants that can be irrigated with seawater have begun to grow. First, there are two kinds of plants, potatoes and sweet potatoes. These two plants have short growth cycles, high yields, and strong adaptability. They are definitely the best choice for solving food problems. At night, after Xihai returned to his room, he began to sketch and paint the underwater city. Visiting Atlantis today made him fully understand that this is a magical era, and this is an unprecedented era for human civilization. Ying Ziyue is also very much looking forward to his results. Once successful, civilian submarine cities will spread across the entire eastern country on a large scale. When ocean cities began to spread the seabed, it was a second step of Poseidon's plan. For the advancement of human civilization, and for the disasters to be dealt with next. Poseidon plans to speed up its pace. Chapter 577. After day and night, Xihai finally drew a sketch of the construction of the submarine city. The name of this submarine city is Udo. This is the submarine city designed by Xihai, and he will naturally have his share on the same day. The design drawings passed Ying Ziyue's hands. Ying Ziyue was very satisfied, and immediately began to mobilize a large number of engineering equipment for construction. A satellite live broadcast was posted on the official website, and it instantly rose to the top of the hot search list. Construction of the second submarine city capital begins. Booming. I saw icebreakers starting to break ice on the 0 layer of ice above you. Do side point, these icebreakers are like black beasts, using their huge bodies to crush the ice in front of them. Great wise man, has the construction of the second submarine city already begun? The speed is too fast. Dong Fang Shuo. This time the country did not carry out construction in secret, but instead carried out live broadcast. Is this the confidence of a big country? Big bun. Those guys in the West, just look at it. Can they imitate it after seeing it? That's right. With such a strong ice-breaking efficiency, Western countries are beyond the reach. Today, the ice in this sea area was smashed by these 100 black beasts in just 1 hour, and all the ice flows in the sea area of 100 miles around were broken. Not finished, I saw huge iron nets opened between these icebreakers and began to clear the floating ice in the sea. The cooperation between the two ships is breathtaking. After 2 hours, the entire sea area was cleared of ice, and then one after another small black spots appeared in the sky. After walking in, they found that these small black spots were actually airships. There are floating plates hanging one after another under these airships, and everyone here can't help but wonder, isn't it going to build a submarine city? Are these floating plates not the materials used to make artificial islands? A series of question marks rose in everyone's mind soon. A small island was completed in the eyes of everyone. It didn't take long for the mystery to be revealed. Construction ships came from all directions, and each ship carried a large number of giant parts. The size of one of the screws is about 50 meters in diameter alone. My goodness. What the hell is this going to do? I have never seen such a huge mechanical part. What kind of black technology has the Great Eastern countries developed? Buzzing. The huge mechanical arm began to assemble parts, and a huge mechanical building rose from the ground in full view. Titan drilling machine, a giant construction machine developed by the Central Academy of Engineering. On today's frozen soil, drilling rigs need more power, and drill bits need to be stronger. The Titan drilling machine can drill a well with a depth of more than 1 kilometer in 1 hour on the strongest frozen soil. You do was located on a submarine plate, with an extremely solid foundation under 10 meters of silt. Xiu called the Titan drill to the Central Engineering Research Institute. The original 1-week subsea foundation engineering work can now be completed in only 3 days. After several hours of assembly, a giant round bead building with a height of 1000 meters and a diameter of 200 meters appeared in front of everyone. With a buzzing sound, the Titan drilling rig began to work. A diamond drill was protruding from the bottom of the small island, and the high-speed rotating drill began to go deep into the seabed. Chapter 578. The Titan drilling machine drilled deep holes one after another in the seabed rock formations, and the engineering submarine floated to the surface, using its own robotic arm to clamp a steel bar. Subsequently, the engineering submarine dived into the deep sea with steel bars and started foundation construction under the command of underwater worker Sun Sheng as an ordinary worker. At this time, he is wearing a cold and pressure-resistant diving suit to guide the engineering submarine in the deep sea. He had never dreamed that he would actually carry out construction work on the seabed one day. The foundation works of the submarine city Yudu were carried out in an orderly manner, and the foundation could be laid in about a week. After that, the construction of water barriers was started. And after the seawater in the submarine urban area was drained, the infrastructure project could be carried out. At this moment, Yudu was building a command center, and Xiu suddenly received a message, one of which detected a signal lost by a submarine. Hearing this news, Xiu frowned slightly, and the detection submarine lost its signal. The signal transmission function of the probe submarine is the more powerful of all models now. That a detection submarine loses its signal. This is not a trivial matter, Yugang. Shall we stop first? It is very dangerous to continue construction without knowing the danger. Xiu frowned, and then said, first send the news back to Atlantis, so that they can send armed forces for reinforcement. How could it stop? Once the project is stopped, the drill bit of the Titan drilling rig will cool down quickly, and it will take a lot of time to replace the drill bit in function next time it starts. There are also those deep holes. The seabed is no better than the land. If they don't lay the foundation now, it won't be long before the undercurrents on the seabed will carry mud and sand to bury them. In any case, this project cannot be stopped. Atlantis Marine Security Center received the signal from Udo to build a base, and immediately sent a whale shark guard and armed submarine to support it. Fang Jingshan, the captain of the whale shark guard, sat on the submarine and called up a large amount of information. It was the information on various aspects of the location of Udo that had been detected before. Captain, do you see anything? Something's wrong. Fang Jingshan looked at the information he had fallen out, then looked at the other members and said, the marine life near the site of Udo is not right. Fang Jingshan found that the marine life data near the Udo site was abnormal, and the number of species was normal, but the density was far below the average. You must know that the number of marine organisms in each sea area strictly abides by nature's rules. There must be oval or level marine creatures near the site of Udo. It will swallow other marine creatures and cause the density of marine creatures to decrease. If this is the case, we have to be prepared. A guy with such a big appetite is not a messy master. Fang Jingshan frowned slightly. Now that the ice age has come, all animals and plants are adapting to this cruel world. Wang heo heo. To adapt to this cruel world, they must be stronger. The unknown seabed has always been a field unexplored by humans, and no one knows what will happen. It's almost the place where the incident happened, so I cheer up. Report, Captain. The radar shows that two giant creatures over 10 meters in length are approaching us. Fang Jingshan touched the ice gun on his waist and said in a deep voice, let me see what is sacred. Chapter 579. A new era has begun. With a loud bang, a behemoth slammed into the submarine where the whale shark guard was located. Suddenly, the insider of the submarine turned over, and Fang Jingshan saw the figure of this behemoth through the window. His eyes widened. As a marine biologist, he is very familiar with the creatures in front of him. Not the famous Deng's fish. Ying Ziyue of the Atlantis Center heard the news and immediately stood up. Deng's fish. Alive. This represents some ancient creatures sealed by the glacier are emerging. The Earth's environment before the Ice Age was not suitable for the survival of ancient organisms. Today's environment is close to that of the ancient Earth, which causes those ancient organisms to begin to move again. Ying Ziyue immediately issued the order and must be caught. The order was issued, and two special fishing boats galloped out of a port. The Type A marine fishing vessel has a 3-stage nuclear power system, equipped with a huge harpoon and a reinforced wire fishing net. Since the beginning of the Ice Age, Ying Ziyue has speculated that, if the Earth's environment is close to the ancient Earth's environment one day, will there be any surviving ancient creatures that will recover again? Therefore, the Institute of Oceanography has specially developed this special nuclear-powered fishing boat. However, perhaps the Institute of Oceanography did not expect that there are actually paleontological creatures lurking in the deep sea. So these two Type A marine fishing vessels are all. However, the power of these two Type A marine fishing vessels cannot be underestimated. The nuclear power on board is definitely a first-class power, and the firepower of the harpoon is enough to penetrate a 10-meter thick steel plate, and the equipped wire fishing net can carry 10 tons of items. This fully equipped marine fishing boat simply exists to catch Deng's fish in the deep sea. At this time, the submarine was roaring, and Fang Jingshan drove the submarine towards the sea with full horsepower. The fierce Deng's fish behind him opened his mouth wide and chased after him. In order to maintain the hatred, Fang Jingshan even used torpedoes to provoke. Sure enough, the anger of Deng's fish was ignited all of a sudden, and he followed the submarine in hot pursuit. Fortunately, the power of the submarine is strong enough, otherwise the strong offensive power of Deng's fish would break the protective layer on the surface of the submarine with one bite. Give it a few more bites. This submarine can't stand the tossing. Suddenly, a big net fell from the sky, and the moving Deng's fish only felt that he was in a halt, and when he reacted, he was enveloped in the big net. The fishing boat turned on the maximum power directly, and Deng's fish had no resistance at all, and then a series of anesthetics pierced into the body of Deng's fish. In this way, the second Deng's fish was also caught. On the second day, a piece of information came to a hot search. The Great Eastern Country caught 2 dengfish, and deep sea paleontology is recovering. Now these 2 dengfish are housed in the ice sea, in the biological experiment Garden Point. For a time a lot of voices were heard, and some Western scholars speculated that the previous plate movement and submarine volcanic eruption caused some surviving ancient creatures to revive again. And the current Earth environment is close to the ancient Earth, making them appear again. Watching those Western scholars commenting below, Ying Ziyue's mouth rose slightly. They were right. The Earth is returning to ancient times, but this is not a bad thing. The existence of these ancient creatures will make their civilization construction further. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 580. For a time, news about the dengfish catch spread all over the world. Many marine biologists came from all directions just to see this ancient creature that only exists in historical records. My goodness. This is a living dengfish. The Great Eastern Powers are so powerful, they can even catch this beast of the ocean. I beg the Eastern Powers to show dengfish to the public. I will definitely go to see it soon. The appearance of dengfish also aroused the excitement of people from all over the world. Many of them called for the exhibition of dengfish. However, the Central Meteorological Bureau was uneasy after seeing dengfish. Researcher Tang Xian Cheng of the Meteorological Bureau and personnel from the Institute of Oceanography conducted an analysis of the appearance of dengfish. According to the place where dengfish appeared, we sent a large number of detection submarines to investigate. One good news and one bad news. The good news is that we haven't found the recovery of other ancient creatures. It seems that the 2 dengfish are just the fish that slipped through the net of nature, and they have extremely high research value. The bad news is that we found cracks caused by the submarine earthquake nearby. Although these cracks will not affect you, the structure of the submarine plate has begun to be unstable. Tang Xian Cheng opened the air corridor system and began to analyze the abnormal weather in the sea area. Sure enough, he found a clue that 36 extinct volcanoes around the world suddenly began to recover, and a large amount of lava was ejected, causing the destruction of the surrounding submarine plate structure. These news must be told to the Ying group. These materials were passed to Ying Ziyue's hands as soon as possible, and Ying Ziyue had the right to know all the materials. Seeing this report, Ying Ziyue frowned slightly. The submarine volcano erupted, and the plate structure began to break. The occurrence of this series of disasters seems to indicate that a huge disaster is slowly approaching. However, Ying Ziyue only frowned slightly, and then the corners of her mouth rose slightly. If he receives this news in 1 minute, he might be a little annoyed. Just now, Zhao Wenlin of the Xihai City research base developed a device called the Vulcan Energy Extractor. At the beginning, Ying Ziyue gave Zhao Wenlin 3 special research places, but now the first research project is finally completed. This Vulcan Energy Extraction machine has only one function, and that is to produce geothermal particles! 0 Fine flowers. Ying Ziyue has seen the power of geothermal particles. Whether it is used for energy issues or weapon manufacturing, it has huge potential. The only drawback is the low yield and low extraction efficiency, which has caused the research progress of geothermal particles to stagnate. And this Vulcan energy extraction machine can directly use the volcano as the extraction source, and the geothermal energy extracted from it is compressed and cooled, and finally made into a geothermal particle. Don't underestimate this geothermal particle. The heat released by a geothermal particle is comparable to the heat released by a small man-made sun in a month. The most critical point is that with the Vulcan energy extraction machine, the volcano that has been a disaster has turned into their energy power station. Regarding volcanoes as energy supply stations, this crazy idea will eventually come true in this magical era. Immediately, make a large number of Vulcan energy extraction machines, open the air corridor system, and locate the unstable volcanoes in the world. It is time to put them on fire. The emergence of the Vulcan energy extraction machine simply solved an urgent problem. Death. Chapter 581. At the same time, the construction of U Capital is finally nearing completion under the turmoil of many workers day and night. Ying Ziyue received UXIU's notice and invited him to visit Udo Point. Upon receiving this invitation, Ying Ziyue touched her nose. This feeling was like a teacher preparing to check a student's homework point. However, Ying Ziyue is also very concerned about the construction of Udo. Udo has an extremely important position in the Poseidon plan, which can be said to affect the direction of the next plan. When Ying Ziyue came to Udo, he was taken aback by the sight in front of him. Point in the distance. The capital of U is like a dragon palace in a crystal ball, beautiful, and the protective cover of the capital of U is added with fluorescent glue. Point this makes it more conspicuous in this dark seabed, and it looks even more dreamy. The secretary on the side commented, as a civilian city, this appearance can indeed attract many residents to live in. This is the difference between military and civilian use. For military use, safety is the first consideration, cost effectiveness is the first consideration, while for civilian use, civilian cost effectiveness must be considered. The two possible small changes will cause completely different effects. UXIU has done a good job. Simple changes can increase the beauty without reducing the safety performance. When they came to the entrance of Udo, a water tank was automatically raised from the ground. The submarine was docked in the water tank, and then was collected in Udo. After draining the sea, Ying Ziyue and the secretary walked out of the submarine. Point and UXIU is standing on the shore. Although he has deep dark circles under his eyes, the whole person is indeed very energetic. Leader Ying, I've been waiting for a long time. UXIU's voice was very loud, and he seemed to be very confident in his masterpiece. Ying Ziyue patted him on the shoulder and said, after the review, you can take a good rest. Walking into Udo, Ying Ziyue rode the maglev elevator directly to the highest point of Udo, and looked down. Point I saw that the entire city of U used the cobweb construction method. A circular channel was opened in the peripheral area. The channel was planted with improved seaweed, and next to it was an improved coral tree. Point this arrangement can be regarded as a solution to the problem of support in Udo. Point next to these coral trees is a food planting base, where marine plants are also used for food planting. Point the cultivated ocean rice has extremely high resistance, can grow in seawater, and the yield is still unabated. Then there is the residential area. The upper layer of the residential area here has a layer of storage battery. On weekdays, the residents' daily electricity consumption is distributed by the Central Electricity Bureau to the storage battery. The waste of electricity is solved to the greatest extent. The electricity that residents have not used for play will still stay in the storage battery, waiting for the second use. Point after the residential area is the warehouse area, where a large amount of building materials and food are stored, and the center is the administrative area. Point looking at the city plan in front of her, Ying Ziyue also nodded in satisfaction. Ying Group, RU Capital also uses magnetic levitation roads. Residents can use small and exquisite magnetic levitation boards for travel, which completely saves the waste of traffic resources. Maglev traffic? Ying Ziyue couldn't help but look at UXIU. You came up with this idea? No, it's one of my seniors. He gave me this suggestion during the construction of the city. He is a professor who studies magnetic levitation. Really? I don't know if I can meet your senior brother. Chapter 582. Hello, team leader Ying. Before long, a middle-aged man came to Ying Ziyue. Zhuyuan is an engineering architect. After graduating from Huangman Engineering College, he has been devoted to researching electromagnetic technology. Ying Ziyue smiled and said, your maglev transportation system is really well designed, which greatly saves space and manpower and material resources. Hearing these words, Zhuyuan was not complacent. Instead, he said to Ying Ziyue, Ying Group, it's not enough to watch it. You can try it yourself first, and then how about you evaluate it? 0 to it seems that Zhuyuan has great confidence in the maglev transportation system he designed. Then I'll give it a try. Ying Ziyue and others came to the entrance of the central building through the elevator, and rows of magnetic levitation skateboards stopped on the charging piles. The charging pile is connected to the underground power grid. This magnetic levitation skateboard is similar to the previous shared bicycles. Everyone took out several magnetic levitation skateboards. After standing on them, the surface of the maglev skateboard began to detect user information point. If the user is an illegal intruder, the magnetic levitation skateboard will transmit its information to the security center. Not only that, the transparent barrier set up on the edge of the magnetic levitation skateboard will automatically adjust if the user loses his balance point in an emergency. The magnetic levitation skateboard will quickly form a protective layer to protect the user. Regardless of the thickness of the protective layer being only 1 mm, it uses nanosteel technology, and its robustness is no less than the strength of graphene. In all respects, the magnetic levitation skateboard absolutely meets the functions of a vehicle, and there is a positioning chip inside the skateboard. As long as the user's mobile phone is used for positioning, the automatic driving mode can even be turned on. Check user information. Pass. For your safety, the traffic assistance system is turned on. Buzzing. The maglev skateboard slowly rose. Ying Ziyue was taken aback for a moment. The stability of the maglev skateboard was so high that he didn't feel the pressure of rising at all point. After getting on the magnetic levitation skateboard, Ying Ziyue tried to lean forward. At this moment, he felt as if there was an invisible force in front of him to hold it up. The safety performance is indeed good. Then Ying Ziyue and others stepped onto the street on the magnetic levitation skateboard. The speed of the maglev skateboard can reach up to 300 km per hour. The key to making the maglev skateboard run is the underground magnetic orbits in this city. These orbits are divided into primary magnetic orbits and electromagnetic orbits. The original magnetic track is constructed with a magnet, which is put into use by strengthening the magnetic force of the magnet. Of course, this magnetic force will only be activated when the maglev skateboard passes, and it will be hidden underground on weekdays. The electromagnetic orbit is the orbit usually used, and the primary magnetic orbit is the emergency orbit used when the power is insufficient. In less than an hour, Ying Ziyue visited the entire area of Yudu on a magnetic levitation skateboard. Yes, the principle of magnetic levitation should not only be applied here. Ying Ziyue narrowed his eyes to look at Zhuyuan. Zhuyuan was taken aback for a moment. Before he could understand, Ying Ziyue had already taken him onto the submarine, saying that he had a more important task to be entrusted to him. And before long, a shocking news appeared. The construction drawings of Yudu were published on the official website, and the number of downloads of construction drawings exceeded millions in just 1 hour. Chapter 583. What's the matter? How did the architectural drawings of the submarine city appear on the official website? Could it be the official negligence? Hurry up and notify the official. There is an insider to terminate the transaction. A large number of private messages directly squeezed the official mailbox, and it didn't take long before the official came out to refute the rumors. They put up the drawings of Yudu for reference by engineers all over the world. I hope that these engineers can continue to improve the drawings of this submarine city and create more and more excellent submarine cities. Starting today, engineers from all over the country can submit contributions if they have a better subsea city construction plan. The official website will have a dedicated section for engineers from all over the country to contribute. If the manuscript is adopted by the government, the country will invest a lot of resources to hire it as a chief engineer to build a new submarine city. As soon as this remark came out, the number of downloads of Yudu construction drawings on the official website once again exploded. Engineers from all over the country began to download the construction drawings of Yudu, and then began the research of sleepless sleep and food, hoping to build a better submarine city. You must know that to build a city, such a huge project, just one thing is enough to be brilliant for a lifetime. For a time, all parts of the country fell into the frenzy of subsea engineering construction. The Western countries seemed to have sensed an opportunity and held a special meeting to discuss this matter. What the hell are those guys in the East? They are actually showing the drawings. We have studied the drawings specially. They are real, and they can be copied and constructed exactly the same. Impossible. How can we imitate their exactly the Same construction. We have to build our own ocean city so that we can overwhelm the East and the West. It's right. It's right. We can't live in the shadow of the great Eastern country. For a time, Western countries began to rely on the construction drawings of Yudu to begin the construction of Western submarine cities, and the master behind all of this was Ying Ziyue, who took the initiative to broadcast the construction drawings of Yudu. He also asked everyone to agree on this matter. After Xiu listened to Ying Ziyue's thoughts, he couldn't help but breathe in air unexpectedly. There are so many layouts under Ying Ziyue's move to put out drawings. In less than a month's effort, a large number of ocean city construction drawings appeared one after another like bamboo shoots after a rain. Facts have proved that there is absolutely no shortage of engineering talents in major Eastern countries. 100 submarine city construction drawings were selected, and 100 submarine cities were built at the same time. Engineering ships set off from the port densely like ants, and then distributed to various parts of the sea. The icebreaker travels day and night, blazing a trail after another with a hard body. Western countries have also begun to build submarine cities non-stop, but Western countries, do not have the strong scientific and technological power of the Eastern powers, so their construction projects can be said to be difficult. Ying Ziyue looked at the port and the transport ships sailing to the distant sea. The second step of Poseidon's plan had already begun. Now we can start the third project, the Submarine City Linked Corridor Project. This project is to build magnetic levitation channels around various submarine cities, so that materials can be transported extremely quickly between various urban areas. Chapter 584. The construction of the Submarine City Linked Magnetic Levitation Channel fell on Zhou. Ying Ziyue specifically approved Zhou to find a few people to cooperate with him. The construction of the magnetic levitation channel requires a large number of magnets as assistants, and emergency situations must be taken into account. The electromagnetic channel and the original magnetic channel must be used in combination with each other. But a new problem has arisen again. How to deal with the transportation of building materials during the construction of the magnetic levitation channel. The construction of submarine cities can use offshore platforms for up and down transportation. The construction of the submarine channel is constantly moving, and the offshore platform cannot move with it. Although engineering submarines can be used, submarines are only submarines after all, and their carrying capacity cannot be compared with ordinary ships. Unless there is a ship that can dive into the deep sea, the operation of this type of ship requires a lot of power, and it is still difficult to achieve the energy supply of large ships with the nuclear power system so far. But, quickly, this problem was solved, and the development of the first model deep sea ship was completed. The first type of deep sea ship was developed from the Yellow Sea Marine Ship Research Base. The Yellow Sea Marine Ship Research Base also applied for the research and development of geothermal particles before Zhao Wenlin. The only difference between the two is that Zhao Wenlin specializes in energy extraction, so Zhao Wenlin developed the Vulcan energy extraction machine, which perfectly alleviates the shortage of geothermal particle resources. The Yellow Sea Marine Ship Research Base combines geothermal particles with engines. Finally, let them research it out, the first geothermal power engine. Subsequently, the researchers of the research base also applied for the qualification of Deng's physiological structure research. The deep sea ship combining Deng's biological form and the first geothermal power system in history was finally born. Ying Ziyue made a special trip to the Yellow Sea to witness this deep sea ship. When he saw the behemoth docked at the pier, he couldn't help but sigh. The 500-meter hull, 200-meter tall behemoth, is moored in the harbor like a giant on the sea. Its ship alone has already occupied more than half of the port. This deep sea ship is called the Giant, and compared to those ordinary ships, it is indeed a huge monster. The Giant uses a geothermal engine as its power, and nuclear power as its secondary auxiliary power. Nuclear power, once its smash hit, has finally met its own opponent, geothermal power. The Giant was called a deep sea ship because a protective shield was built on top of his profile. Graphene and nanosteel are used as the skeleton, and even equipped with a city-level protective cover as a water barrier. You can switch between sailing mode and stealth mode. The sailing mode can reach a speed of 100 km per hour, and the concentrating mode is enough to reach 50 km per hour in the deep sea. Moreover, the bow is equipped with a King Khan class guard deck, and any sturdy glacier cannot withstand its impact. The only regret is that its armed forces are almost zero. This is a deep sea ship that is biased towards civilian use. Its main function is to transport people and a large amount of materials. The emergence of this deep sea ship can be said to have solved the current urgent need point. With the help of this deep sea ship, the submarine Liancheng maglev channel may be completed ahead of schedule. Ying Ziyue directly requisitioned the giant to start construction, and specially ordered it, before leaving Point Lean, some resources to the Yellow Sea Marine Ship Research Base, hoping that they can develop more geothermal engines and deep sea ships. Chapter 585. The submarine Liancheng magnetic levitation channel project has officially started. The host of this project is Zihai. The purpose is to use the principle of magnetic levitation to lay a channel that can transport materials on the seabed. The construction of the magnetic levitation channel this time uses a pipeline connection method. Each pipe is 100 meters long and 30 meters in diameter. The glass inside the pipe is made of double-layer tempered glass with a buffer liquid in between. The inner wall of the internal pipeline is covered with electromagnetic circuits, which are used to generate huge electromagnetic force. The giant came to the sky over Atlantis, buzzing. The hull began to raise a layer of water shield, and the giant began to dive. The huge body slowly disappeared above the sea. And then the bottom of the cabin of the giant opened, and the engineering submarines began to unload the pipeline from the giant. The workers also started underwater operations. The magnetic levitation pipeline started from Atlantis, then passed through Udu, and then began to radiate toward the surrounding submarine cities from Udu as the origin. In Atlantis, Ying Ziyue opened the air corridor system. Recently, volcanoes around the world have gradually become active, and even the movement of the seabed plates has become more and more frequent. This foretells that disasters may come at any time, and the Poseidon plan must be completed before marine disasters come. Only in this way can they survive this disaster. Otherwise, the submarine city they have worked so hard to build is very likely to be destroyed. 1 month after the time came, the magnetic levitation channel between the cities began to be put into use, which made the entire submarine city group into a whole, with the exchange of materials with or without. In Atlantis at this time, Zihai looked at the train in front of him and smiled. This maglev train is the last part. This maglev train uses a graphene skeleton and tempered glass as the shell body, under the premise of not affecting the use of the train. The horizon is broadened. As long as the passengers of the train look up, they can see the ocean scenery outside through the pipeline. Ying Group, do you want to try this submarine train? This train has the same effect as a snow country train that Ying Ziyue originally led. Ying Ziyue stepped on the submarine train, just like the maglev skateboard before. Ying Ziyue could hardly feel the tremor of the train. Zero fine flowers. The train began to move, and a blue light was shining in the electromagnetic channel, and the maglev train began to accelerate slowly, and finally turned into a uniform speed form. Ying Ziyue raised her head, and saw that there was a magnificent undersea spectacle above her head. Sitting in this undersea train, if she was a little bit dazzling, she really thought she was in an aquarium. The speed of the submarine train is extremely fast. On weekdays, it takes 1 hour to reach Udu by submarine, and it only takes 20 minutes to reach the address of Udu by taking the submarine train. Upon arriving at Udu's train station, Ying Ziyue looked at the train behind her and smiled. The perfect end of this trial operation indicates that the submarine train can be put into use. At this moment, the ground shook for a while, and a series of earthquakes happened near Udu. Ying Ziyue frowned slightly, opened the air corridor system, and discovered that hundreds of volcanoes erupted at the same time around the world. Time Brooks, no delay. The disaster is coming soon. Ying Ziyue immediately returns to Atlantis to set up a disaster emergency center to prepare for the disaster. Death. Chapter 586. This is reporter Guoxiu. I'm now near Mount Roya, the largest volcano in the world. Mount Roya, which originally erupted once every 3 years, erupted without warning in recent days, rumbled, the distant volcano kept roaring, and a large amount of lava gushed out from the crater, like a shooting star across the sky. The sky above the volcano was dyed fiery red by flames, as if the end of the world had come. A large amount of lava fell onto the surrounding land along the volcano's 67 rock wall, until it spread into the sea, and a white mist rose up. It's terrible, but luckily I don't live nearby. Volcano Roya has only erupted once in 3 years, since the Ice Age. This eruption is only a year away from the last eruption. Moreover, the scale of this eruption of Mount Roya is no less than that of previous years. The next eruption will definitely be stronger than this one. At this moment, reporter Guoxiu exclaimed, "It's a ship from the east. I saw a black icebreaker advancing in the fire and rain, and a large amount of lava fell from the sky and landed on the icebreaker, but it seemed to be scratching. The glaciers behind these icebreakers followed like a shadow, and this move aroused everyone's doubts. Are the eastern powers ready to use these glaciers to suppress volcanic eruptions?" As a captain, Tang Zuwen accepted this mission. Looking at the apocalyptic scenery in the distance, all the crew looked calm. Most of them have participated in disaster relief operations. They are not afraid of huge glaciers. How can a mere volcano frighten them? Captain Tang, the internal activity of the volcano is declining, and it is expected to stop erupting in 10 minutes. What's the next outbreak time? It is estimated that the next outbreak time will be 3 days later. 3 days later. This time is unbelievable for anyone to hear it. A volcano that erupts once every 3 years. The eruption cycle is reduced to once every 3 days. Of course, these outbreaks are small-scale outbreaks, and the real catastrophic outbreak is yet to come. If it is not stopped in time, the devastating area caused by the volcanic eruption may suffocate the creatures of this continent. Thinking of this, Tang Zuwen looked at the distant volcano. 10 minutes later, the volcano stopped erupting, leaving only a large amount of lava flowing slowly around. The action begins. For a while, a large number of icebreakers began to turn around and circled behind the glacier, booming. The icebreaker nuclear power system directly drove to its maximum, and huge waves rose up around the glacier. These icebreakers are helping the glacier advance. What is the big eastern country doing? The eruption has stopped. What are they going to do? Soon, the speed of the glacier reached a terrifying point, and one after another giant icebergs rushed towards the place where the volcano was, like a meteorite. With a bang, accompanied by successive crashes, the huge glacier stopped on the shore, and a large amount of cold air hit the lava on the ground. Not long after, those lava turned into hard lava under the influence of the surrounding cold. Before it was over, a large number of missiles were launched from the icebreaker, and those glaciers were blown to pieces by the missiles in an instant. This wave directly cooled the remaining lava on the island. At this time, the icebreaker chose to dock. The parts were transported from the icebreaker, and everyone couldn't help but wonder, what kind of machinery should these parts make up? If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 587. If Ying Ziyue were here, he would definitely be able to recognize at a glance. These parts are the parts that make up the Vulcan energy extractor. That's right. In order to prevent this volcano from erupting again, the Eastern powers have started a volcanic suppression plan. The reason for the volcanic eruption is precisely because of the energy overflow. As long as the excess energy is extracted, the energy inside the volcano can be guaranteed to be at a constant value. Zooming key. Put on heavy protective clothing. This heat-resistant protective clothing has a double-layer structure, and the skeleton is made of bionic plastic steel. The 0-2 layer of the outer protective layer can withstand the high temperature of 2000 degrees Celsius and can come and go freely in the magma. However, magma is a high temperature and high pressure liquid. If it falls into volcanic magma, it is no different from falling into a swamp point in the lava with almost zero visibility at high temperature and pressure. It is almost impossible to survive. Therefore, even with high temperature protective clothing, it should not be taken lightly. Zhu Mingqi was sitting on the heat-resistant transport vehicle, and Shujin, a worker next to him, couldn't help but laughed and said, "What a fucking dream. I never expected that Shujin could one day be able to ride on the volcano's head for engineering work, who isn't it?" Zhu Mingqi couldn't help but smile. He looked up and saw the endless black volcanic mud around him, and the lava flowing underground could vaguely be seen. If they take off the protective clothing, I'm afraid that within a minute, they will become human barbecues. A large amount of liquid nitrogen was sprayed from the front of the heat-resistant transport vehicle at the foot, and the lava instantly turned into hard frozen soil, and the transport vehicle began to move toward the crater. Zhu Mingqi turned his head and looked over. Above this black land, this permafrost road looked particularly abrupt. A transport vehicle drove over from the shore, sending parts to the crater continuously. Finally, when he arrived at the crater, Zhu Mingqi saw that the thermometer beside his protective suit showed that the temperature here had reached more than 100 degrees. After Zhu Mingqi walked a few steps, he could see the hot lava in the volcano, as hot as the sun. When he stretched out his head, these lavas are like boiling water, rolling frantically, with signs of explosion at any time. Da. The sound of the helicopter's propellers came overhead. The reporter Xihai was really lingering. In order to understand the truth of the matter, he came here without fear of death. He doesn't have any protective clothing. As long as the volcano is a little unpleasant, a bubble of lava splashing is enough to kill him. Dear viewers, now the volcano has stopped erupting, and engineers from the east have now climbed to the crater. Could it be that the eastern powers are planning to do any projects in the crater? Snow country trains, huge lightning rods, wind turbines. Every doomsday disaster for us seems to be a harvest season in the eyes of eastern powers. After conquering the cold wave, the hurricane, and the sky thunder, the eyes of the eastern powers fell on the volcano again. At this moment, the person in charge of the project issued a signal. Helicopter in the sky. This is the construction site of the Vulcan suppression plan. The volcano may erupt at any time. Please pay attention to your safety. If you want to shoot at close range, please apply for permission for engineering shooting. Otherwise we will drive you away. It didn't take long for the helicopter to leave, but Ziyue did not give up, but applied to Taili for permission for engineering shooting. Chapter 588. The live broadcast signal was cut off, and many people who ate melon sighed for a while, and ran to the official website to find that the official website did not have details about the Vulcan suppression plan. Oh, why is it so slow? Why is it so slow to apply for photography permission? Hurry up. Seeing half of it makes me itch. What exactly is the Vulcan suppression plan? Looking at the posture in the final picture. Isn't it about building a project on the crater? What? Are you crazy? That's an active volcano. Impossible. What should I do if the volcano erupts? All of a sudden, news on the internet about the Vulcan suppression plan was flying all over the sky. Some people say that the eastern powers are going to build a huge gate in the crater to stop the volcanic eruption. It is also said that the great eastern countries are preparing to cool volcanoes with huge glaciers. Others say that the great eastern powers are going to explode the volcano directly, so as to wait for the troubles forever. At this time, Zhu Mingqi was holding a wrench and tightening the screws on it. A huge manipulator next to him was drilling holes in the volcanic rock wall. Zhu Mingqi glanced at the thermometer next to him. The temperature had now risen to more than 300 degrees, and the space in front of him was constantly distorted by the rising heat. Looking at the surrounding engineers, a large number of heat-resistant steel skeletons have been laid on the surrounding circle, and then the auxiliary skeleton construction will be carried out. Zhu Mingqi couldn't help sighing. Working on the crater was something he had never thought of in his entire life. Looking down, Zhu Mingqi couldn't help narrowing his eyes. The hot lava was as dazzling as the sun, dazzling and deadly. After taking a look, Zhu Mingqi pulled the safety rope on his body and started to move around. It didn't take long for a live broadcast room about the Vulcan suppression plan to rise rapidly, and everyone squeezed in. The host of the live broadcast room is still Xihai. but now he has put on protective clothing and is standing in the crater. Audience friends. Crazy. This is really a crazy opportunity. The Eastern powers are preparing to build an energy base on the crater. That's right. Eastern powers have mastered the technology that can use volcanic resources. Since then, these volcanoes are no longer a hidden danger. They are a huge energy center. As soon as these words came out, the live broadcast room exploded in an instant, and an energy station was established on the volcano. Use volcanoes for production. It's so cool. This is the East. What about the volcano? In front of my great eastern country. Obediently become an energy center. Don't grind. Come closer. Let's see the engineering details. Xihai began to approach the crater, and when he saw the dense spider web-like skeletons laid on the crater, he couldn't help but breathe in a cold breath. After fixing his seatbelt, Xihai looked down at the crater, and the hot lava came into view. I lost it. If it falls, wouldn't it be that there is no bones left? It's weird. Why do I feel so hot at home? The host is careful. Don't fall. We can count on you to broadcast it to us. Wang Ziyue's heyo. At this moment, the engineering manipulator began to lay the platform, which is composed of 3 layers. The bottom layer is made of heat-resistant steel with excellent thermal conductivity, and the absorbed heat can be used for secondary use. The middle layer is the anti-fighting layer that combines graphene and nanosteel, and the last layer is the platform of insulating steel. Standing on it, there is absolutely no warmth. In less than half a day, the crater platform was laid, and standing on the edge of the crater, the temperature had dropped below 100 degrees. Chapter 589. Soon, the crater was covered with a man-made platform. Audiences from all over the country stared at the screen closely because they knew that after the establishment of this platform, it was time for the real protagonist to appear. Even Xihai couldn't help but look aside. The workers unloaded a pipe from the truck. The inner wall of this pipe has a diameter of 5 meters and a thickness of almost 1 meter. Xihai watched the pipes in front of him being connected section by section. Afterwards, a total of 10 pipelines penetrated into the underground lava through the holes specially left on the platform. Is laying these pipes to pump out the magma. Don't worry, look down. You see that those parts are not assembled. At this moment, the screen shook for a while, and the crater platform on the scene was also swayed, and a stream of lava gushed out from the cracks in the platform. Xihai's face changed drastically. Could it be that the volcano is about to erupt again? However, when he looked back at the workers, one of them shouted, "What about the insulation cloth? Don't let lava splash on those precision parts." Faced with such a dangerous situation, these workers turned out to be protective equipment for the first time. Soon, the shaking of the platform stopped, and it seemed that the shaking was just a small eruption of the volcano. But it also shows that the activity of this volcano has begun to exceed the expected effect, and the Vulcan energy extraction machine must be installed on the crater immediately. As an engineer, Zhu Mingqi did not dare to slack in the slightest. Each worker and engineer stopped talking, and everyone was stuffed to assemble parts. Now they are racing against the volcano, racing against the death god. Once they fail, what awaits them is destruction. At such an intense and serious engineering site, Xihai seemed to be infected too, and he did not dare to slack in the slightest. Dear viewers, there are still the last 24 hours to predict the eruption of the volcano. Following Xihai's gaze, everyone saw the boiling lava. They rolled like boiling water, and the splashing lava kept hitting the platform of the crater. Hey, don't the reporter run. The volcano is about to erupt. Seeing this barrage, Xihai smiled slightly, and saw that his perspective turned to a building in the distance to skyrocket. None of them left here. What reason do I have to leave here? I saw one worker after another, unswervingly sticking to their posts. No matter how the volcano under their feet roared, they had only one goal in their eyes. Exclamation mark. Buzzing. The Vulcan energy extraction machine is installed. Zooming Key stood in the distance, looking at the artifact they had built against the clock point. The outside of the Vulcan energy extractor is like a huge generator, but this generator has 10 huge pipes plugged into it. 10 pipes extract a large amount of lava into the Vulcan energy extraction machine, and after being squeezed and energy extracted by the Vulcan energy machine, it is fused into geothermal particles. Subsequently, the cooled lava will be discharged back into the volcano by the central pipeline point. Of course, it can also be extracted separately and used for other purposes. Rumbled. The volcano seemed to have been provoked, and the volcano at the foot began to tremble crazily. The volcano is going to erupt. At this moment, everyone is standing in place. They believe they will never fail. They believe in the Vulcan energy extraction machine they built. Rumbling. Xiu's legs were weak, and he couldn't help but start playing drums. Chapter 590. Buzzing. The Vulcan energy extraction machine began to work, and a large amount of lava went down the pipeline into the energy extraction machine point. Xiu felt the vibration of the platform, and the volcano was roaring. At this moment, the volcano's vibration reached a peak and unexpectedly began to weaken, but the movement under the platform was getting smaller and smaller until the end. Everyone standing on the platform could only feel the sound of the Vulcan energy extraction machine. Successful. My god. The East actually suppressed the volcano. Is this the East? The magical East Fang. On the platform at this time, many engineers cheered, and everyone fell into ecstasy. Tense nerves for 3 days and 3 nights. Now I can finally relax. Zooming Key sat slumped on the ground. He was originally not good at expressing, but now he finally showed a smile on his face. This live broadcast shocked countries all over the world. It is important to know that energy issues have always been an issue that the world is paying attention to. The appearance of the Vulcan energy extraction machine is tantamount to a transformation of energy, the emergence of a new type of energy. Volcanoes around the world have changed from being troublesome to energy mines. In the central engineering base, Ying Ziyue has been looking at the screen in front of her. When the volcano is about to erupt, he is also slightly worried. But the facts have proved that the East is such a magical country that can create miracles one after another. How is the ocean underground oxygen supply network going over there, while the global volcanoes are being suppressed by the installation of Vulcan energy extraction machines? A huge project is also continuing on the other side of the seabed. Ying Ziyue opened a map. This map was a map of ocean city clusters. But on this map, one engineering line after another, a web of life spread all around. This web of life almost covers most of the submarine cities, and this net of life, the full name is Submarine City Group Oxygen Supply System Network. That's right. The significance of this Submarine City Group Oxygen Supply System Network is to extract the oxygen content between the major cities and put it in a balanced state. Excess oxygen will be stored, and a submarine oxygen supply station will be built to supply oxygen to the submarine for deep sea exploration and increase its diving depth. At this time, Yudu was 500 meters underground. A worker wearing a diving suit was standing in a hollow. Lu Zuan pulled off his diving suit and exhaled 0 fine flowers. The worker on the side quickly reminded, "What are you doing? Put on a diving suit." Lu Zuan shook off the water stains on his body, pointed to the continuously running drill rig in front of him, and said, "I haven't reached the deep sea again now, isn't it necessary?" The worker on the side said sternly, "This is the engineering safety code. Put it on quickly, or I will tell the foreman that I won't take you with you next time." Hey, don't. I'll take it right away." Lu Zuan hurriedly put on his body for diving. At this moment, seawater appeared in the originally wet passage, and the seawater had just passed the ankle. "The drilling machine is about to break the ground. Hurry up." Hearing these words, Lu Zuan did not dare to be vague, and immediately took out the safety nail, deeply inserted it into the nearby wall, and then secured himself to the wall with a safety belt. This action was done in one go, and they practiced it countless times on weekdays with a bang. When they were just fixed, a large amount of seawater poured out, and huge water pressure hit them. Death. Chapter 591. The huge water pressure is like an invisible big hand, dragging everyone wanting to be involved in the ocean current. Fortunately, Lu Zhuang had fixed himself on the wall a long time ago. No matter how great the ocean current was, he would stand still. Soon, the water pressure in the passage reached equilibrium, and Lu Zhuang and his co-workers removed the safety lock, pulled out the safety nail with a tool, and kept it behind them. Following the passage, Lu Zhuang and the workers, the space in front of them suddenly became clear after a short period of 6 or 87. It was a basin on the seabed. Lv Zhuang and Gang Gao carefully measured the gap between the two channels in the basin, and then transmitted the data to the center of the system. These exposed parts will require other engineering teams to carry out special pipeline covering works in this area. Ying Ziyue of the Central Engineering Bureau looked at the data from the Subsea Engineering Department, and the location of the pipeline was displayed on the map. Today, this web of life has been paved with nearly half of the area, which is good news for the overall plan. If it is, the function of the magnetic levitation channel is to connect many submarine cities together, and the existence of the oxygen supply system network is to connect all the life of the sea cities together. Ying Group. The Vulcan suppression plan has suppressed 80% of the world's volcanoes, and now hundreds of Vulcan energy extraction machines have been set up. Done well. Check to see if there has been any change in the movement of geocentric energy recently. Yes, and the order for the industrial zone has also been completed. Upon hearing these words, Ying Ziyue's eyes lit up. How much has been done? About 50 or so. Very well. According to the map icon I sent you, transport all these things to the designated location. Yes, time brooks no delay. Now Ying Ziyue can only construct multiple projects at the same time. Only in this way can she run away from disasters. Ying Ziyue scratched his head and dropped a few hairs. In front of him were some engineering drawings: Vulcan suppression plan, web of life, subsea power plant, Operation Xihai. These projects are all part of Poseidon's plan, and Ying Ziyue can't worry about handing them over to others. Ying Ziyue rubbed her eyebrows, and near U Capital on the other side, the huge deep sea ship giant crashed down zero. A large number of engineering submarines are like hard-working ants, removing one oxygen supply pipeline from the ship one after another. These pipelines do not need to be used outside the magnetic levitation pipeline, and the gauze equipped at both ends of the pipeline can effectively purify the gas that shuttles back and forth in the pipeline. These pipelines began to be transported from the underground of Udu, only to see one pipeline after another just entering the open channel. Lv Zhuang installed the oxygen supply pipes together with his workers. After seeing the assembly of these pipes, Lv Zhuang couldn't help asking, did there be any errors in the instrument during the measurement of this project? The gap between the pipe and the wall is so big, to how to fill it in when a worker next to him smiled and said, at this time, you are eating and losing your culture. These gaps are deliberately set aside so that the pipelines can be connected and transported. As for the gap between the pipe and the wall, you don't have to worry about it. The natural seabed pressure will naturally merge it completely over time. Lu Zhuang suddenly realized that he had already considered it clearly during the implementation of the project. Chapter 592. With the installation of the last pipe completed, Lu Zhuang couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. The huge project that was expected to be completed within a week was actually completed one day ahead of schedule. Standing at the air outlet of Udu, Lv Zhuang felt that the air in Udu passed through this oxygen pipeline to other places. This is also normal. As the second submarine city established, Udu has been perfecting its own system since its establishment, and its daily oxygen production absolutely exceeds its consumption. Except for Atlantis, the capital of scientific research, no city has a size larger than Udu. At this time, Ying Ziyue was in the Central Engineering Management Bureau, put down the tablet in her hand, and said to the secretary 02 beside her, get ready, let's go to Atlantis. Clear. Afterwards, Ying Ziyue came to Xihai City again, the submarine train tunnel leading to Atlantis. Only Xihai City has a direct connection to Atlantis. When Ying Ziyue entered Xihai City, he immediately felt something wrong, and saw a green unit signal appearing on the city wall of Xihai City from time to time, and then disappeared. When Ying Ziyue entered Xihai City, Zhao Wenlin immediately stopped him. Ying Ziyue received news from Zhao Wenlin halfway through, and after thinking about it, he changed his route. When I arrived at the Binghai Research Center, I saw Zhao Wenlin change from the old-fashioned and seriousness before, with a look of joy, and excitedly held Ying Ziyue's hand. Leader Ying, I have not failed your trust, of course not. Ying Ziyue smiled. The Vulcan energy extraction machine developed by Zhao Wenlin is an epoch-making invention point. Since the advent of the Vulcan energy extraction machine, the global eruption of volcanoes can no longer be rampant. The volcanic eruption, originally called a disaster, has turned into an energy mine. This contribution is enough for Zhao Wenlin to enter the Academia Sinica as a special researcher. Zhao Wenlin smiled and said, it is because of another thing that we suddenly stopped Team Leader Ying today. If I'm not mistaken, it is your other research. The research and development of the Wall of Life has progressed. On the way here, Ying Ziyue deliberately retrieved Xihai City's project application records, and finally let him discover a recent city wall coating replacement project in Xihai City. No losses, the leader of Ying. Now Xihai City has been replaced with the intelligent wall coating of the Wall of Life, the Wall of Life Smart City Wall Coating. This coating is only a thin layer, but in addition to retaining the cold resistance of the previous coating, it also adds an AI intelligence system. As long as a certain amount of engineering waste is fed every day, it can be transformed into engineering materials by itself, and then patrol around the wall to repair the wounds. After the birth of this Wall of Life, the maintenance personnel of the wall can save a lot, and save a lot of manpower and material resources. The remaining manpower and material resources are also an extremely considerable amount under the accumulation of multiple cities. Ying Ziyue glanced at the various data of the Wall of Life, and they all showed that they were normal. Within 1 week of use, a total of 152 gaps in the wall were repaired, including 101 scratches, 41 damages, and 10 penetrations. These data are all normal. The raw materials of the Wall of Life are just some engineering waste, which can be said to be waste recycling point. However, the aspect of AI intelligence still made Ying Ziyue a little worried. Then Ying Ziyue said to Wenlin, I'm very pleased with this project, but the most important thing is to observe the actual use first, and then consider large-scale use. Zhao Wenlin probably also understood Ying Ziyue's scruples, and did not object. Chapter 593. After Ying Ziyue left, Zhao Wenlin sighed. Sure enough, the idea of using AI intelligence is still too bold. Do you want to modify the intelligence system of the Wall of Life? Ying Ziyue's worries were not Zhao Wenlin's worries, so Zhao Wenlin did not say that Ying Ziyue strongly promoted his own Wall of Life. The research on the Wall of Life first dropped to the second level, the last special research place. We must grasp it. Thinking of this, Zhao Wenlin was full of enthusiasm again. At this time, Ying Ziyue arrived at the submarine train station in Xihai City, and saw them at the entrance of the station and took the elevator to the underground station. The elevator here is made of tempered glass. Through the glass, you can see the scenery outside, and fishes of all sizes are swimming around. When arriving at the submarine train station, Ying Ziyue did not feel the coldness of the submarine. The sun lamp above her head made people feel a little warm. Passengers at the Xihai train station, please note that the Y1 train to Atlantis still has 5 minutes to enter the station. Please wait outside the safety line for. Ying Ziyue and the secretary were like two ordinary people, standing in the crowd waiting. At this time, Ying Ziyue had already put on a set of casual clothes, with a scarf covering his lower face. The two of them stood in the crowd, waiting for the train to enter the station. For a while, Ying Ziyue was in a daze, as if she had returned to the era before the Ice Age. In that era, there was no disaster, nor was there such a magical illusion as it is now, and of course there was no leader Ying who was all-powerful. Human beings are always in difficulties, constantly evolving and moving forward. Ying Ziyue smiled slightly. The train drew into the station. Ying Ziyue embarked on the submarine train to Atlantis soon. The submarine train arrived at the train station in Atlantis, and there was almost no difference between the submarine train station in Atlantis and Xihai City. After entering Atlantis, Ying Ziyue found that she hadn't come for a while, and Atlantis had undergone a radical change again. At this time, Atlantis was no longer empty, and tall buildings rose from the ground one after another, and dense passages connected the tall buildings like a spider web. Between these tall buildings, some researchers walked back and forth between the tall buildings on a flying skateboard, the transportation vehicles coming and going under these tall buildings orderly transport research materials. The experimental greenhouse on the other side is not as simple as before, or replaced with intelligent control systems. I didn't expect that I hadn't come over this period of time, and Atlantis had such a huge change. The secretary on the side smiled and said, "Nowadays, every submarine city is fighting in secret, hoping to become the best submarine city. Atlantis is the focus of research on the city. How can it be lagging behind?" First, Ying Ziyue heads to the center building, which is also the research building of Atlantis. Ziyue's good didn't know when there was an unwritten rule that only one special level research could be conducted in each building. This also makes each researcher start to work hard. After all, the number of places is limited, and you can't fall behind. In the central research building, Ying Ziyue actually saw that some laboratories were cloning Dengsfish. Dengsfish fry are swimming in the simulated aquarium. Whether they can survive or not depends on their destiny. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 594. Leader Ying. The researchers admired Ying Ziyue very much. Ying Ziyue waved her hand and said, "Don't worry about me, just do what you have. Dengsfish has great research value. After all, it is the most classic paleontology. However, there are only 2 ancient Dengsfishes that have survived so far, and major research institutes are staring at these 2 Dengsfish. In order to relieve the pressure of research, we can only proceed with the task of cloning Dengsfish first. Because they don't know the living environment of Dengsfish, and now they are constantly exploring. Dengsfry are very fragile. So far, they don't know how many times they have failed. Ying Ziyue nodded. The revival of ancient creatures also played an extremely important role in the progress of biological research. After all, the deep sea ship giant was built according to the physiological structure of Dengsfish. So far, there must be the giant in the submarine project site. It can be seen the importance of deep sea ships. So the Yellow Sea Marine Ship Research Base has begun preparations for the construction of the second deep sea ship. Coming to the top floor, Ying Ziyue came to a room and saw that in this room, large and small screens formed a huge wall of information, and the staff intently looked at the surrounding information. Wall, recording something from time to time. At the top of this research building, there are all Ocean City information rooms. Ying Ziyue stepped forward and stood on the console in the center. Detection of human body information. Start to detect identity information. First level permission detected. All database development. Welcome to use Poseidon system. Ying Ziyue slid her finger in the void and saw several screens flying out of the surrounding wall of information. These screens formed a huge map point, and on these maps, small red dots appeared one after another, and these red dots represented submarine cities. Now these red dots cover almost 30% of the ocean area, and beside these red dots, a green line winds up to another red dot point. These green lines are the lines of the submarine trains, and these lines form the economic lifeline of the submarine cities. Beside this green line, a blue line is also particularly conspicuous. That is the oxygen supply system network, the lifeblood of the sea under the sea. Now, the submarine cities, large and small, form an indestructible whole. With the exchange of materials, the entire seabed has formed its own system, and only in this way can it resist the next disaster. Ying Ziyue quickly browsed the city data of various submarine cities, confirmed that there was nothing wrong, and nodded slightly. Finally, the third step of Poseidon's plan was completed, and now it was time to wait to fight the disaster. The air corridor system warns that a total of 300 volcanoes around the world are rapidly increasing in activity and are about to erupt. The air corridor system warns that 80% of the world's marine areas have increased seismic activity. Central Meteorological Bureau increased. Global temperature rose slightly. The global temperature has risen slightly. In normal times, this is definitely good news, indicating that the ice age is about to pass. But in this special disaster period, there is only one result, and that is the anger of nature. Ying Ziyue's eyes narrowed slightly, and the anger of nature is about to pour out. For this disaster, Ying Ziyue was confident, not only because he had successfully survived the disasters of nature many times, but also because of the great Eastern country standing behind him. Never succumb to the difficult Eastern power. A great Oriental country that creates miracles. Chapter 595. At this time, a researcher at the city monitoring center yawned boredly. Suddenly he looked at the data on the screen and rubbed his eyes, as if he couldn't believe the data in front of him. The thermometer in front of me has actually risen by 3 degrees Celsius. Since the advent of the Ice Age, the outside temperature has been below zero, but now, the temperature data, that hasn't moved for 10,000 years has actually risen by 3 degrees Celsius. This is definitely a drastic change, and all cities have begun to perceive changes in the outside temperature for a while. Although the rising temperature data can be said to be negligible, is this a sign? For a time, news about rising global temperature spread across all cities like a hurricane. Many people rushed to the official website for the first time, and the official website also gave them answers. The global temperature rise nowadays is caused by the abnormal movement of underground lava. In the future, more than that, it may cause a series of disasters such as earthquakes and tsunamis. Civilians are also invited to stay in their homes to cooperate with the city's disaster resisting mobilization. Discussions began on the internet. After all, the disaster actually affected the global temperature. While fearing the terrible disaster, everyone has hope in their hearts. That is, the Great Eastern country. Every time a natural disaster, the Great Eastern countries can always create miracles. So this time, they will definitely get through. At this moment, the official website launched a live broadcast, and a large number of people poured into the live broadcast room. The images in front of them were all transmitted by satellites. Seeing this image, everyone couldn't help but breathe in air conditioning. I saw that the sea was enveloped by a layer of water vapor. A large amount of lava was ejected from the crater, and a large number of submarine volcanoes erupted together. Even some extinct volcanoes that have long lost their activity are now activated again, ejecting endless anger. This is the natural disaster. This is the anger of nature. A large number of flames fell into the ocean and gradually turned into a large amount of water vapor, but these volcanoes erupted at the same time, and even the seawater began to boil. The sky was stained blood red by flames, and there were a large number of buildings on some extinct volcanoes, all of which were now destroyed. Everyone couldn't help but frown slightly. At this moment, the picture turned, and a large number of volcanoes rumbling in another sea area. However, no matter how they roared, the Vulcan energy extraction machine above their heads worked at full capacity, and they did not give them a chance to explode! Zero fine flowers. The more violent the volcano erupts, the more excited the Vulcan energy extractor will be, and cans of geothermal particles are born from the Vulcan energy extractor. I saw a large number of transport vehicles drove up from the foot of the mountain, and then left with a can of geothermal particles satisfactorily. Zero. Seeing this scenery, the researchers at those research bases are even more ecstatic. With geothermal particles, they can do more research. And those engineers are also very excited. With geothermal particles, they can develop more powerful machinery. Those people froze for a moment, only to realize that only they were so afraid of the volcanic eruption. Those engineers and researchers who knew about geothermal particles were not only not afraid, but ecstatic, and regarded this volcanic eruption as a gift from nature. This volcanic eruption has instead produced a large number of geothermal particles, which will be sent to all parts of the world to ease the research pressure on those research bases. The Great Eastern country once again turned the disaster into a bumper season. Death. Chapter 596. Too strong. This is the East. Nature's anger is in front of them, and there is no way to vent it. No losses. A Great Eastern country. Everyone was shocked. In their eyes, the volcanic eruption, which was like a natural disaster, was actually persuaded by Dongfangxi. Once a large number of geothermal particles are shipped to all parts of the world, it will surely push away the substantial progress in geothermal technology. At this time, the official website also came out to send out a message that vulcan energy extraction machines have been installed on the 356 volcanoes near residential areas around the world on July 20th. The remaining volcanoes that erupt are all volcanoes in no man's land, and their eruptions have no effect on human habitation. Therefore, you don't have to worry about volcanic eruptions at all, because Vulcan suppresses it in the east. At this time, the boulders in the hearts of the people slowly fell. Ying Ziyue on the other side looked at the screen in front of him. And he also watched the live broadcast just now, but the disaster is not over yet. The volcanic eruption is just a precursor. Central Geological Bureau reminded that violent plate movement was found in the depths of the Pacific Ocean. The air corridor warned that earthquakes occurred in many places under the sea. Ying Ziyue pinched her eyebrows and glanced at the map of the submarine city distribution. There were a lot of red dots on it. In the other half of Ying frowned slightly. He just received the news that an earthquake source was found near Ying, and Ying is in the center of the earthquake range. Now is the time to test the level of U Capital's construction. Ying looked at the water cup on the table. I saw the tea in the cup rippling, and the earthquake is coming. Rumble. This earthquake is stronger than any earthquake on land. I saw cracks on the ground around Ying, and cracks came from all directions, attacking you all like lightning. The ground trembled. Ying took a sip of tea, and the surrounding buildings began to shake, suddenly with a muffled bang, and the earthquake stopped. Standing at the window, Ying looked at the ocean beyond Ying and saw a large number of rubble floating in the surrounding sea water, and the surrounding earth was in shattered condition. However, Ying, it is standing here, motionless on the bottom of the sea like Mount Tae. Has withstood the submarine earthquake at Atlantis on the other side. The researchers in the building scratched their heads and looked up at the ceiling. At this moment, a researcher said, "Just now there was an earthquake, don't you know?" "Earthquake? Didn't you feel it?" "Just had an earthquake. I thought I had hallucinations." Zero. The researcher's mouth twitched. "Just now there was a magnitude 6 submarine earthquake. You didn't feel anything." "This is Atlantis, the place where the strongest marine technology has been assembled. A mere submarine earthquake. Broken. What happened?" "Undersea earthquake. This is a great time to mine undersea minerals. I'm doing it." No wonder the people in research room number 1 just ran so fast. The seabed earthquake has caused a huge change in the topography of the seabed, and the huge topographical change has made the deeply buried minerals rediscovered. For a time, a large number of scientific researchers in Atlantis drove engineering submarines deep into the cracks to mine. This incident reached Ying Ziyue's ears. Ying Ziyue couldn't help but laugh bitterly. The guys in Atlantis were really desperate for a search. Now the submarine earthquake outside has not completely stopped, and there may be a risk of aftershocks at any time. Chapter 597. Undersea earthquake? No, it is a gift from nature. The East has completely destroyed nature. The eruption of the volcano solved their energy problem, and the earthquake under the sea brought a lot of mineral deposits. Countries in the world are speechless, and at the same time they are looking forward to what miracles the East will create. At this moment, in the industrial zone of Rose Country, Hume looked at the information on his order and was at a loss. This was the strangest request in his career. You actually want to transport a huge iron rod that is 1,000 meters long and 50 meters in diameter, and this huge iron rod can only be powered by a large number of transport ships, and a large number of floats can be transported under 02. A little carelessness, this iron rod is likely to sink the entire fleet into the deep sea. Hume was puzzled, and the director of the steel plant was even more confused. The order was passed down from above. They worked hard to create such an iron rod, and his other factory director friends said that they also received this strange order, but it is the order above. Even if they are confused, they must produce this order. Thus, such a giant iron rod was manufactured in this way. Hume didn't say any more. Calling on his fleet to start transporting this behemoth, they first laid a large number of airbags on the ground, then rolled iron rods into them, and then began to inflate the airbags. Before long, a bloated ball appeared in front of everyone. Then there is the problem of transportation. In order to transport this behemoth to the port, they specially invited a giant crane that specializes in mobilizing ships. Even so, 10 cranes had loaded this behemoth. Then he threw the iron rod into the water, and Hume swore that he had never seen such a shocking scene. The moment that iron rod entered the water, the splash of water was as huge as a tsunami. It wasn't until a long time that the iron rod slowly floated up, and hundreds of transport ships leaned on the iron rod tightly. Now it is necessary for this fleet to have a very tacit match. The huge iron rod set off from the port, leaving a mess in the port. In the process of sea transportation, a crew member saw such a huge iron rod and was inspired, and then jokingly said to Hume, "Boss, this iron rod is like the Xihai City needle of Journey to the West." Xihai City. Hume knew some myths about the East. After this reminder, Hume couldn't help but look at the huge iron pillar beside him. Maybe this is really Xihai City. At the same time, in the ports of Eagle Country and Rose Country, a large number of iron rods set off from the ports. For a time, this scene was pushed into hot searches by the media of various countries. A large number of Xihai City needles were shipped to the East. Is this the secret weapon of the East? After the people in the East learned about this, they couldn't help but curiously open this title point. When they saw this huge iron rod, their eyes widened. Such a huge iron rod looked like the legendary Xihai City. My god, who are you going to hit with such a big stick? Such a huge iron rod. It is estimated that only gods can wield it. Looking at it this way, it really looks like the Xihai City in the myth. I don't know what is the use of these iron rods. Since it has been announced, it means that these iron rods will come in handy soon. Chapter 598. In the Atlantis Center building at 2 o'clock in the morning, Ying Ziyue sighed slightly and sat on a chair. The secretary on the side offered him a cup of coffee immediately. Ying Ziyue took a sip, and the intense bitterness hit his taste buds, making him a little sober. The drowsiness in her mind suddenly faded. Ying Ziyue understood that she couldn't sleep yet. This battle is a protracted battle. After the volcanic eruption is an undersea earthquake. These are all appetizers. The true power of nature is still behind, and the air corridor system constantly monitors the flow of energy under the sea. At this moment, the screen in front of you issued an alarm, and a large number of undersea earthquakes erupted at the same time. Suddenly, the entire submarine city was awakened again. Of course, after the mountain was shaken for a while, a large amount of rubble was left floating in the sea and the ocean. In a residential building in Udo at this time, a family woke up from shock. There has been an earthquake again. I don't know if this house will be able to hold it, or let's go back to the land. What are you afraid of? Earthquakes? You have to trust the country. We have survived the cold wave and tsunami. Are we still afraid of this small earthquake? You old man, my mother said that you can't do a few words. If I didn't make a huge contribution to the construction of the project before, you could live in this house. Well, knowing that you have contributed to the country. The two old husbands and wives are national engineers. After retiring, they obtained the right to reside in Udo's house. At this moment, many residents were awakened in shock, but no matter what they said, there was no sign that they were preparing to leave here. Because they believe in the great eastern country, believe in this country that has repeatedly created miracles. There was a loud bang, which sounded like thunder on the bottom of the sea. I saw a huge crack appearing on a seabed near Udo, and a large number of undersea currents gushing out. The gravel that had just fallen to the ground was stirred again by this undercurrent. Crackling, these rubbles hit the barrier of the submarine city one by one. Suddenly, Udo's protection alarm was raised, and Xihai hurried to check it out, only to see that Udo's protection level was declining, and now it has reached 98%. Immediately notify the engineering team for emergency repairs. The entire Udo immediately began to take action. A large number of maintenance personnel got out of the bed, lifted their own engineering box and quickly arrived at their work posts. As a maintenance worker, Zhang Lu was originally asleep, but he was awakened by shock, and then he called for an emergency call. When he arrived at his post, Zhang Lu immediately turned on his tablet and began to overhaul the area he was responsible for. Fortunately, there is nothing serious about the area that I'm responsible for at this moment. A worker hurried over from the side. Zhang Lu, you have no problems, right? No problem. Rorschach, where are you going? Zayos, in such a hurry? Are there any problems with you? The worker named Rorschach said, the area is seriously damaged, and one person can't be busy. I'll go and help. I have people on my side to take care of me. That's good. You have to be careful. Don't worry, with this baby in your hand, what can happen? After that, Rorschach patted his shoulder bag on his waist, and then ran over in a hurry. Zhang Lu said nothing. Chapter 599. Seeing Rorschach's departure, Zhang Lu leaned on the railing next to him. Rascal point without any notice. Ordinary workers are not allowed to leave their posts without authorization point, but Rorschach is different. He is the leader of the maintenance team, and has to take care of the safety of all areas. Zhang Lu sighed, and then looked up to the ocean outside. At this moment, in the pitch black sea, only some gravel could be seen flying wildly outside Yudu Point. When the rubble passed over Yudu, Zhang Lu could only see an afterimage, which showed how terrifying the speed was. Suddenly, Zhang Lu's eyes widened slowly. With a loud bang, a huge boulder fell from the sky and hit the protective cover fiercely. The huge boulder was more than 10 meters in diameter, and after hitting the protective cover, it was suddenly broken to pieces. The strength made Zhang Lu a little scared. Zhang Lu quickly reacted, and now is not the time to be shocked. A huge crack appeared on the protective cover in front of him, and Zhang Lu immediately lowered the button on his waist, and saw a piece of rope shot out and firmly attached to the protective cover. Subsequently, Zhang Lu ascended to the protective cover, stretched out another piece of rope, and began to move towards the crack. When he finally reached the crack, Zhang Lu couldn't help swallowing. He was still a little frightened looking at the frenzied chaotic stone outside face-to-face point. Although there is a layer of shield, I can still feel that the disaster is right in front of my eyes. Before he could sigh, Zhang Lu immediately took out a gun-shaped tool from his waist and saw that he placed a disc on the crack and pressed the gun against the disc point. The disc began to heat up, and a magical thing happened, and the cracks on the outside began to be slowly repaired. It didn't take long for Zhang Lu to see the cracks. This is their usual job. Zhang Lu breathed a sigh of relief. The reason for this miracle is due to a special glass liquid in the interlayer of the protective cover. This kind of glass liquid is usually in a solid state, and will become liquid after being heated, and then enter the cracks to be repaired. After this glass liquid enters the cracks, it comes in contact with the seawater from the outside, and when it cools again, it returns to its original solid state. Zhang Lu put the tools away and looked at the protective cover above his head. His brows were slightly frowned, and he could not hold on for long. If this submarine turbulence continues to raging like this, even if it is a special glass liquid, it will sooner or later be useful. At the same time, Ying Ziyue of Atlantis frowned. He had received news from multiple underwater cities. The undersea earthquake is just a foreshadowing. Now the highlight is here. Now a large number of seabed cracks have appeared. The seabed turbulence is raging, and a large amount of rubble is rolled up to attack the protective barrier. If this continues, those submarine cities will not last long, and Ying Ziyue immediately ordered, send all the idle ships to pick up those transport ships. Now it is not tolerable that those transport ships continue to slow down, and the safety of the people will be threatened if they drag for a second. Today's seabed has completely turned into a dangerous zone, and all engineering submarines have returned to the seabed city. So far, no submarine can come and go freely in this deep sea turbulence. Slightly weaker defense power immediately smashed into scrap. For a time, a large number of ships set off from major ports, and the air corridor system automatically planned a safe route for them. Chapter 600. The air corridor system serves you, and has automatically planned a safe route for you. This is the Ocean Central Administration. The rescue channel group has been opened, and the fleets return to their own channels. This is the number 1 fleet, which is taking over the Rose Country fleet. This is the number 2 fleet. It has received a rescue signal from the Kawasaki National Fleet, and it's on its way to rescue. This is the number 3 fleet. I haven't received a signal from the Eagle Nation fleet. It is searching for this sudden submarine turbulence even spread to the sea. The original route is no longer safe. Under the calm sea, the undercurrent is surging. At this time, in an unknown sea, Hume cursed sheet secretly, and their ship suddenly encountered turbulence in the process of transportation. Now the surrounding seawater appeared one after another whirlpool. They are like a meat grinder, tearing the fleet. Don't be silly. Drive to maximum power. Go out. The power of the transport ship had been turned on to its maximum a long time ago, only to see a lot of water splashing behind the ship point. But after a long time, they still stayed in place, even closer to those whirlpools. Sheet. Hume smashed the table violently. Is he going to be buried here on the bottom of the sea? The crew on the side hurriedly shouted, "Don't give up. Captain. We have sent a distress signal to Dongfang, and rescue will be here soon." Hume said impatiently, "These whirlpools are the eyes of the devil. Is there any way for the Eastern Power to solve the whirlpool?" At this moment, a crew member's ears moved, and then he stood up suddenly. "It's the roar of the engine. It's the ship from the east. This is the number 1 fleet. The Rose Country fleet has been found, and rescue operations will begin immediately." I saw the black icebreaker like a sharp blade slashing through the surrounding waves, riding the wind and waves like a god. Swish swish swish. A few torpedoes were shot out. Those whirlpools were not rejected, and they swallowed all these torpedoes. Bang bang bang. A few muffled noises. Those vortices disappeared immediately, and the sea temporarily calmed down. This is the Eastern Rescue Team. The people on board immediately abandoned the ship and came to our ship. Hearing these words, Hume was a little unhappy. Why? These ships are our property. Zero fine flowers a ship or death. The seabed vortex will reappear in a while. With the power of your ship, you will fall into the vortex quagmire again, if you don't take a few steps. If you want a ship or you are dying, choose one. Before I could think about it, other crew members boarded the Eastern rescue ship, and then the Eastern ship fixed a giant iron rod. This is an important material that should not be lost. At this moment, the seabed vortex appeared again. This time the vortex was even bigger, and the surrounding waves came from all directions. My god. We can't run away. As soon as the voice fell, I saw 100 meters of water splashing behind the icebreaker, rumbling, and the engine roaring. Don't underestimate Dongfang. The geothermal engine starts. In the shocked gaze of the Western crew, the icebreaker unswervingly transported the giant iron rod, rushing out of the vortex grouped by the wind and waves. The black icebreaker, like a sharp blade, cuts through the eyes of the devil and rushes out of the whirlpool. This is the number 1 fleet. It has received the target, and is about to go to the target location. Hume grew up with his mouth wide open. This is a great eastern country. Death. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.